What's up, metalheads? My name's Jamie. This is the Blades and EDC channel. If you're new, please consider subscribing. If you enjoy this video, please hit the like button. And welcome to episode 8 of Versus, where I am going to put the Nymble W up against the Jason Grant gripper. First of all, the Nymble W was sent in to me by Brian, aka Lord Needham, on Instagram. And the gripper was sent in to me by Chris, aka Q-Ball, on Instagram. I will link both their Instagrams in the description below. Give those guys a follow. They have a great knife collections, great pictures, really cool people. So give them a follow. And I would appreciate it, and I know they will. All right, so we're going to take a look at these two knives. When I originally thought about doing this video and asked Brian to send me the Nymble so I could, make the versus video between the two, I really thought the Nymble would be closer in size to the gripper. And it's actually quite a bit smaller and lighter weight, which I actually prefer for my hand size being a medium-sized hand. You may not. You may prefer a larger knife like the gripper. We're going to take some measurements. We're going to weigh them. And we're going to talk about each deployment method, which knife is better. Talk about the ergos, which knife has better ergos. And we're going to talk about how they ride in the pocket and the pocket clips. And I'm probably not going to pick a winner on this one because both knives have their pros and both knives have their cons. And we will get into that. First thing I want to do is weigh them because there's definitely quite a bit of difference in weight here. So let's get the scales out. My giant scales. All right, we will do the Nymble first. 4.1 ounces. And the gripper, 5.5. Yeah, big difference. 5.4, 5.5. So almost an ounce and a half, a little less than an ounce and a half more weight on the gripper. Let's take some measurements on them also. And then I'll talk about the deployment and the ergos and the pocket clips. Because I've been playing with both of these knives quite a bit. All right, the gripper overall length is 8.5 inches. Blade length is 3.58 inches. The Nymble overall length, 7.5 inches, and blade length 3 1/8, so just over 3 inches. Although the cutting edge is smaller in both because they both have a nice forward finger choil. All right, first of all, let's talk about the pocket, carrying them in the pocket and the pocket clips. All right, the gripper's pocket clip works very well. The issue with the grippers is going in the pocket, coming out of the pocket, is not the clip so much as it is the frag. This is a very aggressive frag, kind of sharper edges on the little squares, to where the Nymble, it kind of comes down at an angle off the squares. It's much smoother. The Nymble slides in and out of the pocket perfectly. The gripper goes in and out of your pocket fine. It doesn't get caught. It's not hard to put it in or take it out, but you feel it rubbing your jeans the entire time. It rubs quite a bit. So if over time this could damage your jeans a little bit, fray them, just something I want to make you aware of. It's not like it's hard to get in your pocket, hard to get out of your pocket. You just feel every row of that frag coming in your pocket and going out of your pocket. You feel every row as your jeans come across them. With the Nymble, you don't have that. It's much smoother. The way they've done the milling's much smoother, so you don't feel that. As far as carrying in the pocket, there's a clear winner there, and that is the gripper. If you look at the gripper, you can see where your seam of your jeans is going to ride. It's going to leave from that line up, sticking out of your pocket, and it's square there, so it rides in the pocket very well. It feels very good in the pocket. The Nymble, this first Nymble is like this because it's done in reverse of every other Nymble. This pocket clip is angled up this way, right? So your jeans are going to stop right there. So from here up, it's going to be sticking out of your pocket with this knife, which is a little too much because it makes it feel loose in your pocket because it's not riding securely in your pocket. It feels like it could possibly come out of your pocket if you were to bend over or move around the wrong way because it's not riding. This is the Nymble X, and see how it comes down this way, the angle? By it being at that angle, carrying this in your right hand pocket, it rides perfectly in your pocket, and so does the regular Nymble, the original Nymble. Well, if you look, this is the exact opposite, and it's riding in your pocket very funky. This does not ride in your pocket well at all. This clip, the way this clip is done here, I'm not a fan of it at all. I know we've got a lanyard hole here, but it'd been better to bring that clip up and square that to where it's sitting more square or something. I don't know. If you've got one of these, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you put it in your pocket, from there up, it's sticking out of your pocket, which makes it feel, it doesn't feel like it's in there very well, put it that way. So pocket carry clearly goes to the gripper. There's not even a comparison between the two. All right, let's talk about ergos, because these are two very similar knives, guys. Very, very similar. Although one's larger than the other, when you look at the shapes of these knives, not just the blade shape, the handle shape, like this here for the flipper tab. We get a little difference here at the bottom on these, but you know, overall, these knives are very, very similar. So similar that you could look at them and think the same guy designed both of them. And I'm not saying one guy copied the other or anything. I'm just saying these are very similar knives in the way they're shaped and the way they work. Ergos, although this is a bigger knife, for me, the ergos are great with both these knives. Just say that. But for my hand size, I definitely prefer the size of the Nymble. But there are no hot spots on either knife. They're both very good in hand. Although back here in the regular grip, the gripper is better, and I'll show you why in a second. This is very comfortable in this grip. It's very comfortable up here on the forward finger choil. On the forward finger choil, the Nymble is extremely comfortable. When you come back here, this little tip of this pocket clip, when you hold it in a normal grip, I can feel it in my palm. I don't think it may become a hot spot. Maybe not. I don't know. I definitely feel this poking me right over here. If I were to be hard using it, but the thing is I would never hold the knife that way. I would always hold it up here in the forward finger choil, so it wouldn't be a problem for me. But I do have to point out that in a regular grip, you do feel that tip. Now, one thing the Nymble has going for it that the gripper does not, which is going to lead into the deployment methods, is this jimping. The Nymble's jimping is really good, guys. It's great in the grip here. It locks your thumb in. The gripper's jimping is ridiculously bad. It's terrible. It's horrible. There's no traction, and we'll talk about that on the front flipping action in a minute. No traction whatsoever. Completely slick. Doesn't lock me in at all. And I know what they did. Sad thing is, you can see exactly why they did what they did. They made this jimping the same size as they made these frag squares, same size as they made this backspacer with the frag pattern. They did this for aesthetics and not functionality, and that's pretty, you know, that's a letdown, because better jimping would greatly improve this knife, and not just in the grip but in the action. Let's talk about action. We will start with the flipper tab. Again, very similar knives, guys. Flipper action, neither of these are push button knives, because if you try to push button them, the front flipper will come around and get your finger. So, and even if you try to flip too slow like that, it will come around and get your finger. You got to really do it with some authority and get out of the way quick, or the front flipper will come around, and it doesn't hurt you, but it stops it from deploying. Same thing goes with the Nymble, although if you can't push button, right? But with the regular flipper, the front flipper doesn't come around. As long as I'm light switching it, the front flipper never catches my finger on the Nymble. So I'm going to give the flipper action to the Nymble. Yeah. Because something else with the gripper too, the pivot feels really tight. This is a new knife. It has not broken in. So out of the box, the pivot feels really tight on this. It has a fantastic detent though. And you don't really have much room or any room to adjust the pivot because of how tight the tolerances are between the blade and the scales. If you adjust it in either direction, you're going to be rubbing the scale. So you've got what you've got with this knife. There's no room to adjust it. But I am confident that with use, as the bearings break in the bearing track, and I think it will loosen this thing up to where it was going to become extremely smooth over time. The Nymble comes more smooth out of the box for sure, which makes the flipping action better, makes the regular flipper better for sure. Now with the front flipper, this is one of the worst front flippers I've ever felt, just to be completely honest. This is terrible. The Nimble's front flipping action, it's pretty good, guys. It feels like a Nimble. If you've ever dealt with a Nimble, you know what I'm talking about. It feels like a Nimble. And the jimping is good enough to give you good grip. You don't miss it. You don't slip off of it. It's really good on the front flipper. The gripper, not so much, because if you look at, you got one jimp to get traction on. If you hit this jimp down here, you're hitting the scale and you can't front flip it. If you hit above this jimp, they've rounded this edge off and made it really slick. You just slide off the knife. So you have to hit right there in that one spot every time, or you miss. Like that. Like that. Yeah, it's not good, guys. It's terrible, actually. They had no concern about functionality with this jimping. It was all about aesthetics. And it looks really good. I give them that, but it functions like hot garbage. The front flipper does. It's terrible. It's horrible. There's no competition. The Nimble wins the flipper and the front flipper. Now here's where it gets interesting, because the Nimble has a light detent, right? It's not a very stiff detent at all. And that assists you in the front flipper and can assist you in the flipper too. It's just not very, very stiff. The gripper has a very stiff detent. You can just hear that thing popping in. Very, very stiff. So on the reverse flick, that blade just flies out of there. The Nimbles comes out good too, but this is as good as it's going to get, the Nimble, because it's already loosened the pivot, very free, and the detent's not going to get better over time. This detent's really good, but it's tight in the pivot. So as this thing breaks in and that pivot is no longer as tight as it is right now, this thing's going to be a much better reverse flicker and thumb flicker. It's already really good, but it's just going to get better because of how, like I said, as it gets looser, it's going to get better because of how good the detent is. It's an excellent detent. Bitster did a great job on the detent. This is not a bad detent. It's just a lot weaker. It's not nearly as stout as, you know, you can. It's just really, it's not very stiff. So the reverse flick and the thumb flick go to the gripper, and the front flipper and the flipper go to the Nimble. Although I think over time the flipper on the gripper will be better than the Nimble as it breaks in. With the size of that blade and how stiff the pivot is, I think over time the flipper will get better. The front flipper will never get better. It's hot garbage. It's terrible. So, all right, let's talk about which one I think would be better. This is hard for me because I think this is going to be a better knife long term for sure. Although it's just too big for me. It's too big for me personally. So, but I'm going to pick it anyway. I'm going to pick the gripper over the Nymble W anyway, because even though it's too big for me, the detent is the big thing for me. The front flipper, I don't know. Maybe I should pick the Nymble because the front flipper is so bad on this, it doesn't deserve to win. It really shouldn't win just because of that. It's so bad. Yeah, I'm giving it to the Nymble. The Nymble's the winner just because of the jimping. This is terrible. This is an art knife. This is meant to look good. They didn't care how it worked. They really didn't. Because if they cared about how it worked, they would not have done that on the front flipper. Because it's terrible. And yeah, so I'm going to give it to the Nymble. Even though it does have a lighter detent. And I like the stiffer detent in that. I love front flippers. And no matter how loose that pivot gets, that front flipper is going to suck. And this front flipper is really good. And the reverse flick is fine, even with the weaker detent. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I can deploy it just fine. And the flipper is definitely better. And the action's definitely better out of the box. No doubt about it. So, Nymble's the winner. This one has, although this pocket clip is so bad. It's so bad. Honestly, I'm going to say neither of these knives are the winner. Because of how much this pocket clip is bad, and how bad this pocket clip sucks, and how bad this front flipper jimping sucks. there isn't a winner here. Both these knives have such great potential, but both of them have flaws, in my opinion. And I think they're flaws for one reason only on both knives. It's purely for aesthetics. This has this bad pocket clip so it can keep the exact look of the Nymble, right? That's the only reason it has that pocket clip. But that pocket clip reverses that angle, which makes this pocket clip terrible. And it was done purely for aesthetics. This front flipper jimping was done purely for aesthetics. Could be so good if it had better jimping. So there's not a winner here. Functionality should come before, you know, aesthetics, in my opinion. The functions should work perfectly before you worry about your aesthetics. And once you got the functions right, then you go from there with your aesthetics. And they didn't do that with either of these knives. So as much as it pains me to say it, because I like both the knives, but both of them have a problem that could have been avoided, but they didn't avoid it. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. Enjoyed the video. Hit that like button. I hope I didn't hurt anybody's feelings with this one. And I will see you on the next one.